To part two of the further research in relation to the World Trade Center. I've done a previous document in relation to the World Trade Center disaster. This is coming in and looking at the companies with World Trade Center within their company names. This is another one I've found. So you can see on the left there, I've literally just typed World Trade Center within the company's house registration system. Please go and verify and corroborate this information, do the same. And you'll see it brings up a company of World Trade Center Glasgow Limited. Now, this is important. Remember, we've already mentioned Douglas Dougie Smith, the special advisor for the last few prime ministers. He's Scottish. And this company dissolved in March 2024. You can see on the right there, dissolved March 2024. So it grabbed my attention. On the incorporation document, within the filing history, you have K Chapel. So we're going to see this as we go on here. And a company called, it's care of Stuart Williams Association. I haven't researched that company, but you'll see the chapel name features. So this company dissolved, even though it started in 1996. You can see on the left there, incorporated in 1996, dissolved in March 2024. So as I'm exposing the evidence, keeps coming out, I basically can see these companies dissolving, and this will be where they're panicking and they're thinking, well, I suspect it is where they're panicking and shutting these companies down. So on the person of significant control, you can see you've got a Stuart John Wilson based in Wales. And you're going to see the research from this company does link to Wales very, very significantly. And of course, this is where the king was the prince. Okay, so he was the Prince of Wales. This is where Companies House was based. Companies House is producing these illegal entity companies, okay, these fraudulent companies through a criminal process of forging the register and forging the incorporation documents. You'll see some of that later. And of course, when if you're not already aware, when these illegal entities dissolve, any assets go back to the crown, okay, to the crown, who is overseen by the king, of course. So going into this company on the right here, we can see we've clicked on the people record and we've got Kenneth Chappell. And we're going to look at Kenneth Chappell. Now, he is linked to a company called the National Council of YMCAs in Wales Trading Company. And this immediately is very important because the previous World Trade Center research that I've done in relation to the actual disaster shows the National Council for Civil Liberties had Harriet Harman. Her husband was linked to the YMCA, okay? And the National Council for Civil Liberties and the Liberty organisations under a banner of Liberty companies was heavily linked through via the Companies Made Simple to Westco nominees, where they've removed the company name, as I mentioned in part one, and that links to Silverstein Real Estates. Now, Larry Silverstein was the person that purchased the World Trade Center lease in July 2001, just before it collapsed in September 2001. And it was the first time ever that it had changed hands in its 31 years history. Now, please go and look at the other evidence and research in relation to that. So we now have a link to the YMCA as well. Now, if we look, that same person is also linked to a company called World Trade Center Holdings Limited. So it's a holding company in relation to these sets of companies called the World Trade Center. And there's quite a few of them, actually. I've just picked out some important ones. And it was incorporated in 1988. And looking on the incorporation document, where it's actually the Memorandum and Articles of Association, which you can find in the filing history. You can see I've just shown where it is there on the right. On that document, you have Jordan's and Sons Limited. Now, this is very important. Remember, the company that I was part of, Export Manor Freehold Limited, was started up with Jordan's Limited and Swift Incorporations Limited. When you go and look at Jordan's and Sons Limited and Jordan's Limited now trading as Vistra Limited, and you go into the filing history of that company, you'll actually see it's got a company name called Hammerplag Limited. It's never been registered. So it's an illegal entity because a company has to be registered to be able to lawfully trade, but it's been allowed to continue to trade. That means it's an illegal entity. It's fraudulent, should never have been trading, but it has been. So now we've got a link to the fraud already on here. And you can see on page 6 of 11, it also has Swift Incorporations Limited on the right there. You can just see and also Instant Companies Limited. So we have a link to the fraud. So that means it's an illegal entity company. When we go into the people record again, you now have a Lord, okay? Lord Ivor Seward Richard, links to a company called the Leasehold Advisory Service. You can see on the right there. Well, that had already featured in the fraud, okay? And this is very important. We're seeing advisory organisations linked to this fraud. So they're actually advising on the governance of nations, but they're part of a criminal organisation. Now, leasehold advisory, leasehold relates to leases of property. Okay, so if you have a criminal organisation advising on the leases of property, then you open up a whole can of worms in relation to fraud and how that can be used and to victimise individuals in relation to real estate. So here's the Leasehold Advisory Service that had already featured previously. Going into the people record of the World Trade Center company, the same one. You can see at the top there, it still says World Trade. That means we're within the company. You have Alan Talfon Davies. He links to the Bank of Wales Limited. So now we're into banks. And this is a very important company because you can see going into it on the right there, it was incorporated in 1971. Well, why is that important? Well, that is the year that the World Economic Forum started, according to the research. And guess who research suggests was involved in starting it up? The Prince of Wales at the time, now the King. Okay, then was taken over by Klaus Schwab, who was the person who was then running the World Economic Forum. But recently he resigned. Okay, and 3 days before he resigned, I sent the World Economic Forum my evidence. Not only the World Economic Forum, but the FBI, NATO, and the World Health Organization. It was about 200 emails, and he resigned 3 days later. I do not believe that was a coincidence. You can go and look at that email within the public document file that I sent, and also there's a video that I've done in relation to that email. You can see here the changes of company names. I did initially think that was fraudulent, but it's not. Okay, so the only document, and they appear to be hiding some or making it difficult to get some of these documents attached to the register. But you can see Bank of Wales PLC above the red box there. This document related to it, but it does match with the date, so that's fine. But going into Bank of Wales, we now have a connection to Lloyds Bank. Okay, we now have Lloyds Secretaries Limited. Now, this is very important. Remember, I acquired forged Lloyds Bank documents. Okay, there's still an open complaint. It's never been finalised. Lloyds Bank have never confirmed or denied that those bank documents were or were not produced by them. The evidence I've got suggests they were. Now, this is very important because Lloyds Bank, according to the research, Lloyds Bank oversee the finances of the Crown. Okay. Now, this company, I've just highlighted there, Lloyds, but also underneath Gresham Street. Okay, and that's because they're using these addresses, the same addresses, with just changing the names. This is fraudulent. If they're using an address where they can't actually obtain the correspondence, okay, then that becomes a crime if they're lying. And of course, even if they do are able to collect the correspondence, if they don't have an affiliation to that address and where a letter can be given to somebody, then that is a way of avoiding accountability and liability. And the government are allowing this, okay? The government are allowing this to happen. A prime example of that is the address we mentioned earlier, 788 to 790 Finchley Road. Although it's not a crime to have it as an empty address to have the correspondence delivered, it's a way of avoiding accountability because they can say, well, we never received a letter, because there's nobody there to actually hand a letter to, whether it be a letter of civil litigation or criminal litigation. They can avoid that accountability and liability. And the government are allowing this, remember. Now, back into the Bank of Wales, you can see here Timothy Blackwell. And if we go into them, you now have... Now, these are featured throughout my previous fraud, okay? And I believe, if memory serves me correctly, that these companies features in relation to the threat of directed energy weapons. But I'm going to do a big... Well, I started it, and I'm going to get all the information together to make it easier to link. So, Hampshire Bank Limited. Hampshire, again, remember this is important because people within my company had jurisdiction in the NHS within Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset, okay? They also had links through to the intelligence agencies, MI6, international banking fraud via JP Morgan, and pharmaceuticals via the penicillin, but also via directed energy, with the first mast ever put on the Isle of Wight by Marconi, and JP Morgan was involved with the financing of the race to create energy for the world, and they ended up monopolizing it, and it's all part of this fraud. Okay, so here we are, we have a Hampshire link, and you can see, look, when they resigned in May 2024 from that company, the next company, they resigned. Okay, so they're panicking. They're resigning, even though they were part of it since 2017. They actually became a director. Now, let's look at Hampshire Trust Bank PLC that we were just looking at there. It was incorporated in 1977, 6 years after the World Economic Forum started. And looking on the documents, just looking here, I had to go into this document on the right there. You can see on page 2 at the bottom. Click on it. If you go view PDF, you can then click on it. And it has on the incorporation document Jordan's Limited, but also the London Law Agency. Okay, so they're both legal entities. If you look at the London Law Agency, it goes to London Law Agency in brackets but on the incorporation document it has Ganvalon Motors. That had never been registered under that record. It's a crime, guys. But you can see they've stamped over, so they've forged this record, forged this document. It looks like it's forged after they've created it. They've put it on the system, I would suggest, and then they've stamped it at a later date. Okay. The London law, this is criminal. This whole system is criminal. And now via the same person, so we're just going in through that same person we were looking at, and you can see you've now got a company called Black Horse Finance. Now, those who've seen the adverts, we know that Black Horse is related to Lloyd's Bank. And here's Black Horse Finance. And again, this is already linked into the fraud from previous research that I've done and shown. And this address features throughout, so you can see there, One More London Place. This features throughout the fraud, so I've just highlighted that. They also have 2, 3, 4, 5 more London Place, okay, where they just use these addresses to try and avoid accountability and liability. On the right there, we've got also Lex Auto Lease. That is linked to Lloyd's Bank through the previous research as well. Back into Bank of Wales, we've got this person, Noreen Bray. And they resigned on the 21st of September 2001. There you can see I've highlighted. That's, not very long after the World Trade Center disaster at all. Even though, so they were appointed in 1999, before the World Trade Center disaster, and removed themselves or resigned afterwards. That person is linked through to the Cardiff Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This is so important. Every area of fraud I come in, I'm pretty much finding a chamber of commerce, okay, because they deal with companies, within corporations, or certainly with companies within society. This is where this fraud is all happening, in corporations. Right back at the heart, the creation of these organizations is criminal in what is happening. Here's the Chamber of Commerce, and notice on the overview page there at the top left, you've got the in the brackets at the end. If you look on the incorporation document, you'll see it's an illegal entity company, because it's actually the is at the beginning. And they will know this. They will know exactly what they're doing. Companies House will. They're aware of this. And that's why every now and then you'll see a change of company name, and they just add a comma or take away a comma or use an and symbol instead of the whole word and forge the company that way. It's all criminal, guys. So back into the World Trade Center. And we're now just going back. We're not far. We're literally right back now at the World Trade Center company that we were looking at. We've got Stuart John Williams that we already mentioned. Okay, he was the person of significant control. And we have a company on the right there called Dawn River Property Management Limited linked to him. Correspondence of Wales. And on here, registered office address comes back to Hampshire. Okay, back into Hampshire again. Remember what we've said about Hampshire, with the jurisdiction with someone within my company. And on the incorporation document, it's at the bottom there, you have Jordan's and Sons, and at the top you have a name and address that features throughout the fraud, Mavis June Latter of Brunswick Place. So within that company now, we've got Ronald Slater. So Ronald Slater is linked to a Masonic Hall. Swansea Masonic Hall. Okay, now remember, the Freemasons, or certainly the Masons, the Masonic fraternity, is all over this fraud all the way through. There's lots of evidence coming out in relation to this. It does appear that the Freemasons have infiltrated all religions and are massively behind this. It's a huge part of all of this. So let's look at the Swansea Masonic Hall Company Limited. And you can see they are obviously in Wales there. And they had an original company name, according to this, of Swansea Masonic Hall Company Limited, in brackets, from 1923 to 2019. 2019, when the pandemic happened, okay? When COVID happened, and then they changed their name. But let's look on the Oh, I didn't want to do that, did I? How did I get about that? Here we go. So I had to find documents further up. Sometimes you have to search within the filing history. So on this part, I found it within a special resolution of adoption, a memorandum of association. And when you look at that document, you can see it's an illegal entity company. The is at the front, and also at the bottom right, you have a faded Jordan's Limited stamp. Okay, but it looks as though someone's tried to remove part of it. So moving on. So within that Swansea company, so we're back within the. Oh, why can't I pause? Sorry, yeah, we're within the Swansea Masonic Hall. We have religious networks, religious companies now. Swansea and Brecon Diocesan Board for Social Responsibility. And this person links to Swansea and Brecon Diocesan Board of Finance Limited, in brackets, Okay, so this is another religious establishment. You can see based in Wales, obviously. Incorporated in 1967. And on the document, again, it's an illegal entity company. It's fraudulent. And you can see Jordan's and Sons Limited at the bottom. Going through this into the same person. Okay, we now have... let's get rid of that. We have Swansea and Brecon Diocesan Trust Incorporated, in brackets, And we also now have Widows, Orphans and Dependents Society of the Church. So we're now looking at orphans, okay, children's related companies. And if you go and look at, there's lots of evidence in relation to this, linking the religious establishments, unfortunately, through to the concerns of children. It's shown within my Rishi Sunak document, where you have a monks company that features very closely to the Association of Conservatives, and there's articles that suggest those monks were abusing children very recently, and they were trying to remove the company names and all sorts, trying to remove Fleming and Russia from the company's names, because Russia are tied into this as well. Okay, guys, make no mistake, they're trying to remove that so that Russia can then come in and to assist the One World Order, Putin, along with Donald Trump. Okay, and they're going to try and bring in a digital currency system to make everyone believe that this is all being stopped. But all it will do is allow the funding of the child trafficking through digital currency systems forever. Okay, so it can't happen. There needs to be no further move to digital currency systems, full control through digital currency systems, and there must be now transparent taxation systems at source so that the people can audit the taxation system, and there must be full verification of company incorporations, both old and new, to bring back accountability and liability for company fraud and companies being involved in this sinister activities. So let's look at the Widows, Orphans and Dependents Society of the Church in Wales, brackets there. See, it started in 1931. It's around the same time, as High Elm, okay, which is featured in my other evidence. That was linked to visits by the royal family, and that High Elm company links to the London Law Agency, and then ties in with Jeffrey Epstein, Max Clifford, Ghislaine Maxwell, etc. And we're going to see some more evidence of that later. So this company should have Widows, Orphans and Dependent Society of the Church in Wales on it. But again, it's fraudulent again. And the same person, so we're just looking at the same person now, links to FHS Trust Limited. So it is FHS Trust Limited. And that was a school company at first. Look, you can see on the bottom right there, it was a House School Trust Limited. Finone, I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sure. From 1972, year after the World Economic Forum, okay, until 2007. You can see on the bottom right-hand corner. 2007, interestingly, is when my company was started. Not my company, Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, that I'm part of. Now, on the incorporation document for that company, you have Clifford, Turner and Co. Well, that features throughout the fraud, okay? Because that links to Clifford Chance. Now, I suspect we have Clifford Chance here. I suspect that refers to Max Clifford, because when you come in through the Max Clifford research from him, you can see these companies linking to all of his associated companies. And you have Ledgerbus here. So you have Clifford Chance on the top left there, a Moscow company. We've just been talking about Russia. We now have links through this company, Clifford Chance, a CIS company, links to Moscow. And on the right there, NewsQuest links to Ledgerbus and Clifford Chance. NewsQuest is a media company that owns many of the localized media companies. So, for example, in Dorset or Bournemouth area, you have the Bournemouth Echo or Daily Echo. That is owned by NewsQuest, okay? And they are controlling the media to ensure that this system of fraud does not become exposed. You can see it also links through to the previous pension company, which links to the research surrounding Theresa May, and also Global X and Legalinks, and that links to other top officials within government. On the left there, within the Swansea company, we have Raymond Winchester. And you can see he resigned in February 2023, even though he was appointed in 2010. Okay, so they're resigning. They're panicking. They're trying to get out of these companies. They're trying to dissolve companies. Okay, because they know what they're part of. On the right there, that person links to the Boys Brigade. Now, this is already featured in my fraud previously, the research. Here's the Boys Brigade in the brackets at the end. And again, that will... I haven't got the incorporation document, but I'm pretty sure from research it doesn't have the in the brackets on the incorporation document. But here's the previous research, and this is in relation to Max Clifford, okay? And it even mentioned within the research, here it is zooming in, the Duke of Edinburgh was patron of the London Boys Club. Spencer, who was linked to these companies, the research suggests on my Max Clifford documents, was a trustee, then vice president of the Federation of London Youth Clubs, an association spanning 60 years for which he was appointed an OBE in 2011. You can go and look at this document, my Max Clifford document within the public document file. So the London Boys Club, and it goes on and it links to, shows in the other research. On the right there, you have the London Youth, officially the Federation of London Youth Clubs. And then it links into Soho companies, Soho Club for Working Girls, met at the rear of 2050. You can go and look at it. I'm not going to read all of this. That's within the Max Clifford document within my public document research document. So we can leave it there, I think, because this is a good point. No, actually, we'll do this. We'll do this because there's not a lot on this one. So here's another World Trade Center company, and it's World Trade Center in brackets Milton Keynes Limited. We're going to look at that now. And that was dissolved in 2019, okay, same year as the COVID outbreak. But it had a previous company name. You can see here, from 1987 to 1998 of World Trade Center in brackets Southampton Limited. Southampton, remember, this is where the jurisdiction was with people within the Fleming family. And that's an illegal entity company. You've got Swift Incorporations Limited on the left there and Jordans and Sons Limited on the incorporation document. So it's a criminal organisation. Going back into the World Trade Center now, back to Kenneth Chappell. We've got, into this World Trade Center company now. So this is a different one we were looking at before. Again, you have Kenneth Chappell. So see how they're all linked? So we've got this same name linking this company now. And again, another YMCA company linked to it. And just to confirm, he's part of the World Trade Center Glasgow that we've already looked at. Back into this company, we've now got Peter James, different person. So we're still within that World Trade Center Milton Keynes. And Peter Williams links to the World Trade Center Southampton, in brackets, United Kingdom. Now, that's a different company name that we were looking at. And this is the only one I've found where they've put United Kingdom after. And it happens to be where Southampton is also in the company name. So I found that very interesting. So this seems to be a specific, unique company compared to all of the other World Trade Center companies they've got there. So World Trade Center Southampton, United Kingdom. And it's interesting because its correspondence is in USA. So that's probably why it's different. So it bridges the connection now between the USA being able to be involved in this fraud as well through this. Here we are. So we have that connection to America now. So here's within the company we're looking at, the World Trade Center company, we've got Ronald Slater. And again, an address in Wales. And they're linked through to the Swansea Masonic Hall Company. Back into the World Trade Center one, we've got Mr. Raymond John Stewart Palmer. Oh, I've got that twice. And he's linked now. I've just shown this because there's 598 and almost all, certainly most of them appear to be real estate companies. Okay. So we're going to stop it there and we're going to go on to another one. World Trade Center Business Limited, which is the one that Neil Scott was referring to when he pointed me in this direction. And we're going to do that in part 3. Take care. God bless.